what's up? Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell up above for future uploads, and check out the links posted in the description down below to support the channel. Thank you. So here I have some images today of what I think could be and should be the next Transformers Haslab from Hasbro. At the moment, they're getting ready to release the Transformers Haslab Star Saber, which looks good. And under this team, I have a lot more confidence than the previous team, because the previous team seemed to get Unicron out there. The inaccurate maw was never addressed. The inaccurate bottom teeth of Unicron was never addressed. And indeed, some of the paint on the likes of the hands and the feet was never addressed, and they wanted to go past that. It's unfortunate that that was never a statement that the company made, and something that they never fixed. But I think with this new design team and the new marketing team that's involved, I think they've done well to kind of distance themselves from the previous team and sort of give a new, fresh start to it. So we will say that, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Star Saber turns out. If it indeed is going to be accurate and without any problems, then I think it's full steam behind this current team. What I would like to see and what I think they could do is Cybertron, and what I would like to see is a G1 aesthetic for this. There is a Cybertron that came out from Transformers Cybertron, which turns into Primus, which is why I'm highlighting this. And I think if they did a Generation 1 aesthetic that fits with the current Haslab Unicron, I think that'd be a good idea. And I think you would get people that would back it, because people don't have Cybertron anyway. And with the movie, Unicron does attack Cybertron. People would have it even just for the planet mode, let alone what I think could come with it. So that's why we like to see a G1 version of Cybertron as opposed to a Cybertron version of the character. I think it would be too niche, and you would need to do then another Unicron to make that make sense, if at all. You know what I mean? So I think this would be a good idea. I also think as well, with the issues that Cybertron has in G1 with pieces missing, could also give you a smaller planet. Now, Cybertron is going to be smaller than Unicron, so I'm adding other things on to this Haslab, which is why I think it should and could be done like this. So there you have Primus. So this is Cybertron transformed into a robot, and basically Primus and Unicron are supposed to be brothers in whatever continuity you might look at, and I think that there is room then to kind of give their own aesthetic to this in a G1 version. And also as well too, there's room for play in when it comes to the likes of the head sculpt and stuff like that. And I think it's an easy one to do, given the fact that Hasbro have already gone through what would be considered a shell former, a planet. Cybertron's iconic. This isn't something that everyone has, and I think if you do it with the Generation 1 aesthetic in mind, I think a lot of people are going to back it. What I would say is this, is because Cybertron is going to be smaller than Unicron, you need to add stuff to it. And I think that there's two things that I would like to see added to this, and this is why I think it would get her over the line. Unicron had a bit of a problem, allegedly, with getting 8,000 backers at the time. Now, when you're running subsequent Hasbro Haslab campaigns and concurrent ones, like the likes of Marvel Legends, there are a lot of people that are interested in those and will back those, and a lot of people don't have a lot of money, so they can only splurge on one big item rather than 2 or 3 a year. I think if you keep this in and around, and I will be fair when I say this, I think it's fair to say if this in and around the 350 to 400 mark for what I'm going to put with this, I think that's more than fair. And I don't think Hasbro want to go above 400, because they've been recently shown that with the Haslab Riva lightsaber that wasn't popular and that was going above a certain price. In saying that, there are other items that could probably grow to being more pricey, but I think they want to step away. Cybertron, like I said, is smaller. Primus is going to be a smaller character in that result then of him being smaller than Unicron, and I think it'd be cool looking like that. However, I do think, and I would like to see Sentinel Prime from G1 be involved in this. Now the thing is this with Hasbro, right? When you're looking at this figure here, yes, it looks different, and it looks obviously more cartoon aesthetic wise, and it's something I'd like to see, and I think Hasbro are moving towards. There's nothing to say, particularly with Transformers, because they're doing it now with G.I. Joe, and they're doing it with Star Wars as well too. There's nothing to say that the smaller figure here, like this one here being Sentinel Prime, isn't going to be utilised somehow, some way, somewhere down the line. Like, you could repurpose the head and some of the parts and use it for an all new character, or use it for a different Prime, or whatever it might be. So I don't see the issue with Hasbro putting Sentinel Prime with a Cybertron and Primus character for a Haslab. I really don't see the issue behind that, because I think that they can utilise it down the road for someone else. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. And you will get people out there that say, well, that's unreasonable. I don't think it is, because when they make these molds, and indeed when they sell them, Primus is more than likely not going to get a recolor, retool, remold and be put out there. But the smaller figures will. I mean, you've seen it recently there with the Star Wars Black Series Luke Skywalker that they wanted to add to the Rancor. And people rightfully looked at it and said, well, no, that's probably going to come out in the main line, and it should come out in the main line. And it did. And I think that that's the way they should look at some of these smaller robots if they're going to involve them with Primus. Like later on down the road, I don't think you'll see the exact same version of Sentinel Prime, but I do think you'll see the same pieces, parts, and maybe character, but just done in a different way or different colour scheme. That's what I think was probably a good idea, and I don't think I have an issue with that. The next thing I'd like to see is this. I'd like to see a Cybertron version of Jazz and Wheeljack, and when I'm saying about Primus being a big figure, by the way, he's going to be smaller, as I said, than Unicron, and that's why I'm going to add these three to it. I think your first tier is going to be something maybe to do with Cybertron, maybe a weaponry platform or something like that that you can attach to it, wherever it might be, or maybe even an alternate head, actually even better. An alternate head, kind of like what they did with Galactus, that you could even do a Transformer Cybertron version of it with the head sculpt, you know what I mean? And then have a G1-ish version, because they can do all of these things now where they give it an aesthetic that looks G1, that would look that way. I think, to me, that's a tier 1 is an alternate head. I think that gets people buzzing. I think tier 2 should be Sentinel Prime, because this is a Prime that we haven't received yet, and it's someone that I'm keen to fill out the ranks as well too. I want to see the Primes. I 100% want to see the Primes. This will get a lot of backers involved as well too, because if you're telling people that this is the only way to get this Generation 1 Sentinel Prime, people are in for it. You can do a different version of Sentinel Prime down the line, like an IDW version of it, and people will still buy it. I'd still buy it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a kind of an Iron Man version, an Iron Man Hulkbuster version of a Prime, when Sentinel Prime can jump into another armor, kind of like Star Saber, I suppose. But this, to me, is your tier 3. And why I'm doing this for tier 3 is this. There are a lot of people out there that want to see this. They want a Generation 1 Cybertron version of Wheeljack and Jazz. It's something that people keep talking about, and every time there's a stream that comes up, people are asking, where's Cybertron, Wheeljack and Jazz? These were some of the first Transformers, if not the first Transformers, and indeed were the first Transformers to be seen on screen in 1984. And people are really hungry to see these guys. That, to me, is a perfect tier 3, because if you're looking to get a certain amount of numbers up and back in this, you will get them with this, I believe. Now, I'm going to be conservative when I say this, and I think with this set, if you're looking at Cybertron, Primus, Sentinel Prime, and Wheeljack and Jazz. Now, I will say this, by the way, and I know people would say, well, you're giving in and you're enjoying and you're getting involved with the company and what they do. I've seen recently, by the way, what Marvel Legends have been doing, and what Marvel Legends have been doing is they've been releasing, like Galactus, for example, and he's coming with some heralds. But they're also releasing the heralds separately. Like, I think Firelord, I think, is one of them that they're releasing on his own. You know there's going to be another version of the Silver Surfer later on down the road, and then one or two other people that'll be there. I'm going to say this now, and I know it's not going to be too popular, but if you did Cybertron, which is Primus, you have Sentinel Prime that comes along on this, and you do one of these guys, and then you leave the other then to be released in like a select pack, or like what Hasbro like to do even with the Galvatron. Behold Galvatron. I fully believe that Galvatron, and from what I understand, I think it was confirmed, Galvatron in that kind of translucent mode was supposed to come with Unicron, but it got cut out for budgetary reasons. Again, like I said, you're dealing with a smaller planet, you're dealing with a smaller robot, and I think if you got Sentinel Prime in there, I'd be very happy. But I do think if you got a smaller Transformer like Jazz or Wheeljack in there, I think people would be really happy. I would probably lean more towards, I suppose, Wheeljack than I would Jazz. I'm just going to say that because I think Wheeljack is someone that people are going to get to know more with Rise of the Beasts. I think Jazz, unfortunately, it's a character I love. I mean, Scatman Crothers as well too was wonderful as Jazz. It's a character that's kind of fallen down the pecking order. He was taken out pretty early as well too in the Michael Bay movie. Again, not been in too much media over the years or anything like that. Wheeljack seems to be way more prominent. So I would probably put Wheeljack in here in this pack, and then have Jazz be the Cybertronian mode then if you're going to do a single release. I know that that's going to be infuriating. Listen, it's infuriating to me as well too, because I'd like to see all these characters together. But I'm just looking at it from a realistic point and sense in what Hasbro are going to do. So anyway, that's my opinion on what could and should be the next Haslab item. People are saying that Saurus, I don't know if you're going to get a savage amount of backer star for that. Star Saber is a different kettle of fish because there's been a lot of talk about him over the years from fans in fandoms. And indeed as well too, there's a big Japanese market there too for Star Saber. I think the market is very much so there for Cybertron. I think it's what a lot of people are calling for. It'd be a lovely display piece along with Unicron in planet mode and in robot mode. I mean, a battle of what we would say colossal figures at this stage would be cool. And then you add along then Sentinel Prime. You add in one or both. I would particularly say both of Jazz and Wheeljack, but maybe one or the other. And I think you've got a very strong backing. You've got a very strong case, and it gives people. What I hope Hasbro start to do, by the way, is this. I hope that they start to do like things like that intermittently, insofar as, okay, we give you a massive expenditure there and massive amount of money that went into Unicron. The next year was something that was, in my opinion, much more affordable. I think it could have been done at the Commander price point, if I'm being honest with you, and I think then the Leo Kaiser could have probably been done at the Voyager. I do think a Haslab for Star Saber was surprising, but I think a gap and a bit of a breather in between is a good thing. And the next ones then should be Cybertron and Primus. Anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. If you like these videos and indeed this suggestion, make sure you like it, make sure you share it, make sure you comment down below. That's what I'd like to do as well too. I'd like to hear from you. What would you like to do for our next Haslab? What would you like to see as the next Haslab? And what would you include with the next Haslab? Let me know down below. If you'd like to see this as the next Haslab, hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.